Picture this. You're at a coffee shop, and across the room sits an attractive woman. She glances your way, then looks down at her phone. She adjusts her hair, crosses her legs, then uncrosses them. 5 minutes later, you're still sitting there wondering if she's interested or if you're completely misreading the situation. Meanwhile, the guy at the next table walks over, strikes up a conversation, and within minutes, they're laughing together like old friends. What did he see that you missed? What signals was she sending that went completely over your head? The brutal truth is that women are constantly communicating through their body language, but most men are walking around completely blind to these signals. They're missing obvious signs of interest while completely misinterpreting basic politeness as romantic availability. Today, I'm going to reveal the hidden language that women speak with their bodies. I'm going to show you exactly how to decode the subtle signals, the unconscious gestures, and the biological responses that reveal what she's really thinking and feeling. This isn't just about dating success. This is about developing a superpower that will transform every interaction you have with women. But I need to warn you, what you're about to learn will completely change how you see the world. Once you understand these patterns, you'll start noticing them everywhere. You'll see the difference between genuine interest and social politeness. You'll recognize when someone is lying, when they're nervous, when they're attracted, or when they want nothing to do with you. This knowledge is powerful, and with power comes responsibility. Here's what most guys get completely wrong about body language. They think it's about memorizing a list of gestures. They read somewhere that crossed arms means defensive, or that touching hair means attraction, and they think they've cracked the code. But body language isn't a simple dictionary where each gesture has one fixed meaning. It's a complex symphony of signals that must be read together, in context, with timing and intensity all playing crucial roles in the woman who crosses her arms because she's cold is sending a completely different message than the woman who crosses her arms after you approach her. The woman who touches her hair because it's in her eyes is different from the woman who starts playing with her hair the moment you start talking. Context is everything, and without understanding context, you'll misread signals constantly. This is why so many men struggle with women. They're trying to decode individual gestures instead of reading the complete picture. They're looking at snapshots when they should be watching the entire movie. Real body language mastery comes from understanding patterns, clusters of behaviors, and the subtle changes that occur throughout an interaction. Women's body language operates on multiple levels simultaneously. There's the conscious level where she controls her posture, her facial expressions, and her deliberate gestures. Then there's the subconscious level where her true feelings leak through micro-expressions, involuntary movements, and physiological responses she can't control. The most valuable information comes from this subconscious level because it reveals what she's actually thinking and feeling, not what she wants you to think she's thinking and feeling. Understanding this distinction is crucial because women are masters of social politeness. They've been trained from childhood to be nice, to avoid conflict, and to let people down gently. This means their conscious body language often says one thing, while their subconscious signals say something completely different. The woman who smiles and nods while you're talking might be consciously trying to be polite, but her subconscious body language could be screaming that she wants to escape. This is where most men get trapped. They focus on the polite smile and miss the tension in her shoulders. They notice the eye contact, but ignore the way she's positioned her body away from them. They hear her laugh at their jokes, but don't see how forced and artificial it sounds. Learning to read both levels simultaneously is what separates the masters from the amateurs. The foundation of reading women's body language lies in understanding baseline behavior. Every woman has her own natural way of moving, speaking, and expressing herself. Before you can interpret her signals, you need to establish what normal looks like for her. Some women are naturally touchy and expressive. Others are more reserved and controlled. Some maintain strong eye contact as a matter of habit. Others are naturally shy and look away frequently. Without establishing her baseline, you'll constantly misinterpret her behavior. The naturally expressive woman might seem interested when she's just being herself. The naturally reserved woman might seem disinterested when she's actually quite engaged. This is why the most skilled readers of body language spend the first few minutes of any interaction simply observing and calibrating to that person's normal patterns. Once you've established her baseline, you're looking for deviations. When does she behave differently from her normal patterns? When does her energy shift? When do new behaviors appear that weren't there before? These changes are where the real information lies. The reserved woman who suddenly becomes more animated is telling you something. The expressive woman who suddenly becomes more controlled is sending a different message entirely. Here's something that will revolutionize your understanding of female body language. Women's bodies are constantly responding to their emotional state in ways they can't consciously control. When she feels attraction, her body temperature rises slightly, causing subtle flushing. Her breathing deepens, her pupils dilate, her muscle tension changes. These physiological responses happen automatically and provide the most honest feedback about her internal state. The challenge is learning to recognize these subtle changes. Most men are looking for obvious signals like hair flipping or lip biting, but they're missing the more reliable indicators that occur below the threshold of conscious awareness. The slight flush in her cheeks, the change in her breathing pattern, the way her posture opens up or closes down, the micro expressions that flash across her face before she has time to control them. Mastering this skill requires developing what I call peripheral awareness. Instead of staring directly at her face or focusing on individual body parts, you need to expand your awareness to take in her entire presence. How is she occupying space? What's the quality of her energy? How does her overall demeanor shift throughout your conversation? This holistic approach gives you far more accurate information than trying to decode individual gestures. The timing of body language signals is just as important as the signals themselves. A woman might display the same gesture at different points in your interaction, but the meaning could be completely different based on when it occurs. The hair touch that happens when you first approach has a different significance than the hair touch that occurs after you've been talking for 10 minutes. The laugh that comes immediately after your joke means something different than the laugh that comes after a pause. Learning to read timing requires developing a sense of conversational rhythm. How do her responses sync with your words and actions? When do the changes occur? What triggers specific behaviors? The woman who starts mirroring your posture after you've been talking for a while is sending a different message than the woman who immediately matches your positioning. The timing tells you whether you're building rapport or whether she's being socially compliant. Most men completely miss the importance of spatial dynamics in reading body language. How a woman positions herself in relation to you, how she uses the physical space around her, and how she responds to changes in distance all provide crucial information about her comfort level and interest. Some women create intimate space by positioning themselves closer. Others create distance when they're uncomfortable. Some use objects like drinks or purses as barriers. Others remove these barriers as they become more comfortable. Understanding these spatial patterns requires observing not just where she positions herself initially, but how these positions change throughout your interaction. Does she gradually move closer or create more distance? Does she remove barriers between you or create new ones? Does she orient her body toward you or away from you? These movements often happen so gradually that they're below conscious awareness, but they provide incredibly reliable feedback about how she's responding to you. The concept of mirroring and synchronization is fundamental to reading women's body language. When people feel connected and comfortable with each other, they unconsciously begin to match each other's movements, posture, and energy levels. This isn't something they decide to do. It happens automatically when rapport is building. Learning to recognize when this synchronization is occurring and when it's absent gives you immediate feedback about the quality of your connection. But here's the sophisticated part that most people miss. The direction of mirroring matters enormously. Is she mirroring you, or are you unconsciously mirroring her? When she's genuinely interested, she'll begin matching your energy and movements. When she's just being polite, you might find yourself unconsciously matching hers while she remains unchanged. This subtle distinction reveals whether attraction is mutual or one-sided. Understanding the difference between nervous energy and excited energy is crucial for accurate interpretation. Both states can produce similar physical behaviors. Both can cause increased movement, touching of hair or face, and changes in vocal patterns. The key is learning to distinguish between the energy that comes from anxiety and the energy that comes from attraction. Nervous energy tends to be more erratic and self-soothing. Excited energy tends to be more focused and engaging. This distinction becomes particularly important in the early stages of interaction, when women might feel both nervous and excited simultaneously. The woman who's attracted to you, but also nervous about the situation, will display a complex mix of signals that can be confusing if you're not reading them in context. Learning to separate these overlapping emotional states allows you to respond appropriately instead of misreading the situation entirely. Reading the situation entirely, the mastery of reading body language, extends far beyond simple observation. It requires understanding the psychological drivers behind female behavior. Women are constantly managing multiple social pressures that men often don't even recognize exist. They're balancing their desire for connection with their need for safety. They're navigating social expectations while trying to express their authentic selves. They're dealing with unwanted attention while trying to remain open to genuine connection. This psychological complexity creates layers of communication that operate simultaneously. She might be interested in you personally, while being cautious about appearing too eager socially. She might be enjoying your conversation while remaining alert to potential red flags. She might be attracted to your confidence while testing your boundaries to see how you respond to subtle challenges. Reading her body language accurately means understanding these multiple layers and how they influence her physical expressions. The concept of testing behavior is fundamental to understanding women's body language patterns. Women unconsciously test men through their positioning, their responses, and their energy shifts. These aren't conscious manipulations. They're evolutionary programming designed to assess your confidence, your social awareness, and your emotional stability. The woman who suddenly becomes less responsive isn't necessarily losing interest. She might be testing to see how you handle the change in dynamic. These tests show up in subtle body language shifts that most men either miss completely or misinterpret as rejection. The woman who steps back slightly during conversation might be testing your reaction to see if you become needy or maintain your composure. The woman who breaks eye contact and looks around the room might be checking whether you'll become insecure or stay relaxed and confident. The woman who crosses her arms might be testing whether you'll immediately try to win her approval back or remain unaffected by the change. Understanding these testing patterns allows you to respond appropriately instead of reactively. When you recognize that her body language shift is a test rather than rejection, you can maintain your confidence and composure, which often causes her interest to increase. When you react to tests with neediness or insecurity, you fail the test and her attraction decreases. This dynamic explains why so many men experience women becoming less interested the harder they try to win them over. The role of preselection in body language cannot be overstated. Women are constantly scanning for social proof about your value with other women. How do other women respond to you? How comfortable are you in female company? Do you seem like someone who has options or someone who's desperate for any attention? These assessments happen largely through observing your body language and energy when interacting with multiple women. This creates a fascinating feedback loop. The man who's comfortable with women displays relaxed, confident body language that attracts more female attention. The increased female attention creates more comfort and confidence, which attracts even more attention. Meanwhile, the man who's uncomfortable with women displays tense, needy body language that repels female attention, creating more discomfort and neediness, which repels even more attention. Breaking out of negative patterns requires conscious awareness of your own body language and energy. Are you displaying the relaxed confidence of someone with options or the desperate energy of someone who needs validation? Are you taking up space comfortably, or are you contracting and minimizing yourself? Are you maintaining steady eye contact, or are you constantly seeking approval through your glances? Your body language communicates your internal state just as clearly as hers communicates her feelings about you. The concept of emotional contagion plays a massive role in body language dynamics. Emotions are literally contagious through unconscious mimicry of facial expressions, posture, and energy levels. When you're anxious, she'll unconsciously pick up that anxiety and mirror it back, creating uncomfortable tension. When you're genuinely relaxed and enjoying yourself, she'll unconsciously absorb that positive energy and begin displaying more open, receptive body language. This emotional contagion effect explains why technique and tactics often fail while authentic confidence succeeds. You can memorize every body language signal and study every pickup line. But if your underlying emotional state is needy or insecure, that energy will contaminate the entire interaction. Women respond more to your emotional state than to your words or actions. When your internal state is solid, your body language naturally communicates confidence and attractiveness. Most men focus on trying to read her signals while remaining completely unaware of the signals they're sending. This one-way focus creates a fundamental imbalance that women pick up on immediately. The man who's constantly analyzing her behavior while remaining unconscious of his own comes across as manipulative and inauthentic. True mastery involves simultaneous awareness of both your signals and hers, creating a dynamic dance of mutual communication. Developing this dual awareness requires practice and honest self-reflection. How does your posture change when you're nervous versus confident? What happens to your breathing when you're attracted to someone? How do your facial expressions shift when you're trying to impress versus when you're genuinely enjoying yourself? Understanding your own patterns allows you to make conscious adjustments while reading her responses more accurately. The importance of vocal tonality in body language interpretation is massively underestimated. Her voice carries enormous amounts of information about her emotional state, but most men focus exclusively on her words while ignoring the music behind them. The way she says something often matters more than what she says. The same phrase can communicate interest, boredom, nervousness, or attraction, depending on the vocal patterns accompanying it. Learning to read vocal tonality requires listening beneath the words to the emotional undertones. Is her voice becoming more breathy and soft, indicating arousal or intimate connection? Is it becoming higher and more strained, suggesting nervousness or discomfort? Is it becoming flatter and more monotone, indicating boredom or disengagement? These vocal shifts often precede visible body language changes, giving you earlier feedback about how the interaction is progressing. The concept of approach invitation signals deserves special attention because these are the green lights that most men either miss or misinterpret. Women rarely approach men directly, but they send clear invitation signals when they want to be approached. These signals are designed to be obvious to socially aware men, while remaining subtle enough to maintain plausible deniability if the approach goes poorly. Common approach invitations include sustained eye contact, followed by looking away and looking back, positioning herself in your line of sight repeatedly, mirroring your movements from across the room, playing with her hair while glancing in your direction, and creating opportunities for accidental contact or proximity. These behaviors are distinctly different from general social awareness or polite acknowledgement. The timing and intensity of these signals matter enormously. A brief glance might be meaningless, but repeated glances with increasing duration indicate interest. A single hair touch could be unconscious, but multiple hair touches while looking in your direction suggest intentional signaling. Learning to recognize these patterns prevents you from approaching women who aren't interested while ensuring you don't miss opportunities with women who are actively inviting your attention. Understanding rejection signals is equally important for avoiding uncomfortable situations and focusing your energy more effectively. Women often try to communicate disinterest through subtle body language before resorting to direct verbal rejection. Learning to recognize these early signals allows you to gracefully redirect your attention without creating awkward confrontations. Clear rejection signals include consistently avoiding eye contact, creating physical barriers with objects or positioning, displaying closed-off posture with arms crossed and shoulders turned away, giving short responses without elaboration, looking around the room for escape routes or other people to talk to, and checking her phone frequently during conversation. When these signals cluster together, they indicate clear disinterest, regardless of polite verbal responses. The sophisticated reader of body language learns to distinguish between temporary discomfort and permanent disinterest. A woman might display some closed-off signals, initially due to nervousness, social pressure, or simply needing time to warm up. But persistent rejection signals that don't shift despite your best efforts indicate that continuing the interaction serves neither of your interests. Environmental factors significantly influence body language interpretation. The same gesture can mean different things in different contexts. The woman who stands close to you at a crowded party might be seeking connection, or she might simply have limited space. The woman who touches your arm in a noisy bar might be showing interest, or she might just need to get your attention over the music. Always consider the environment when interpreting signals. Temperature, lighting, noise levels, crowd density, and social dynamics all affect how people express themselves physically. Cold environments cause people to contract and appear less open. Bright lights make people more self-conscious about their appearance. Loud environments force closer physical proximity for communication. Understanding these environmental influences prevents misinterpretation of context-dependent behaviors. The concept of baseline shifts becomes crucial in different environments. Her normal behavior at a professional networking event will be different from her normal behavior at a casual social gathering. Her comfort level in familiar surroundings will produce different body language than her behavior in new or intimidating environments. Always calibrate to the context before making interpretations about her signals. Alcohol and other substances create additional complexity in body language interpretation. Substances can amplify existing emotions, lower social inhibitions, and create artificial confidence or relaxation. The body language signals you observe might be enhanced or diminished versions of her true feelings. This doesn't make them meaningless, but it does require adjusting your interpretation accordingly. Women under the influence might display more obvious interest signals than they would normally, or they might become more physically affectionate without necessarily feeling deeper attraction. Conversely, they might become more guarded and defensive if the substance makes them feel vulnerable or out of control. Reading body language accurately in these situations requires understanding how different substances affect different people while remaining respectful of altered states of consciousness. The progression of body language throughout an extended interaction reveals far more than isolated moments. How do her signals change over time? Does she become more open and relaxed or more guarded and distant? Does her energy increase or decrease? Do her responses become more genuine or more practiced? This progression tells the story of how she's responding to you and whether attraction is building or diminishing. Successful interactions typically show a progression from polite social signals to more personal and intimate body language. Her posture opens up, her proximity increases, her touches become more frequent and linger longer. Her eye contact becomes more intense and meaningful, and her energy becomes more focused on you specifically rather than the general social environment. Failed interactions show the opposite progression. Her body language becomes more closed off over time. She creates more physical and emotional distance. Her responses become shorter and less engaged. Her attention shifts away from you to other people or activities, and her energy becomes flat or forced rather than genuine and animated. Recognizing these patterns early allows you to adjust your approach or gracefully exit before the situation becomes uncomfortable. The man who continues pushing when her body language is clearly communicating disinterest comes across as socially unaware at best and predatory at worst. The man who reads these signals accurately and responds appropriately demonstrates social intelligence that women find attractive in itself. The concept of emotional labor in female body language deserves special attention because it explains many confusing interactions. Women are often performing emotional labor by managing other people's feelings, maintaining social harmony, and avoiding conflict even when it comes at their own expense. This emotional labor shows up in their body language as forced smiles, tense shoulders, and energy that feels effortful rather than natural. Learning to recognize when a woman is performing emotional labor versus genuinely enjoying an interaction prevents you from misreading politeness as interest. The woman who's working to make you feel comfortable while managing her own discomfort displays distinctly different body language than the woman who's naturally relaxed and engaged. Her gestures feel more deliberate, her responses more calculated, and her energy more managed than spontaneous. This recognition also allows you to reduce the emotional labor burden by being more socially aware yourself. When you can read her discomfort and respond appropriately without her having to manage your feelings about it, you demonstrate the kind of social intelligence that allows her to relax and be more authentic. This shift from performed pleasantness to genuine comfort often marks the turning point in successful interactions. The role of personal space in body language communication varies dramatically between individuals and cultures, but understanding these variations is crucial for accurate interpretation. Some women naturally maintain larger personal space bubbles and interpret close proximity as invasive. Others are comfortable with closer contact and might interpret maintained distance as disinterest or rejection. Reading her spatial preferences requires observing how she responds to changes in distance. Does she maintain the space you create, increase it, or decrease it? When you move slightly closer, does she mirror the movement, stay still, or create more distance? These responses tell you about her comfort level and interest far more accurately than any single gesture or expression. The sophisticated reader learns to test spatial boundaries respectfully while remaining sensitive to her responses. Moving incrementally closer while monitoring her reaction allows you to find her comfort zone without violating her boundaries. The woman who's interested will typically maintain or decrease the distance you create. The woman who's uncomfortable will consistently increase distance or create barriers. Micro expressions deserve special focus because they reveal genuine emotions before conscious control can suppress them. These brief facial expressions last only fractions of a second, but provide incredibly accurate information about true feelings. Most people miss micro expressions entirely because they happen so quickly, but developing the ability to catch them transforms your reading accuracy. Common micro expressions include brief, genuine smiles that flash before being replaced by social smiles, momentary eye rolls or eyebrow flashes that indicate irritation or disbelief, quick lip compressions that suggest suppressed negative emotions, and fleeting expressions of disgust, fear, or surprise that reveal authentic reactions before social conditioning takes over. Learning to spot micro-expressions requires slowing down your observation process and paying attention to the gaps between her major expressions. What flashes across her face in the moment before she smiles? What expression appears briefly when she thinks you're not looking? These unguarded moments provide the most honest feedback about her internal state. The concept of energy matching versus energy leading plays a crucial role in creating attraction through body language. When you consistently match her energy level, you create comfort and rapport, but potentially miss opportunities to elevate the interaction. When you consistently lead with higher energy, you risk overwhelming her or appearing try-hard. The key is calibrating your energy leadership to her receptiveness. Successful energy leadership involves gradually elevating the emotional tone of the interaction while remaining sensitive to her response. If she matches your increased energy, you can continue building momentum. If she doesn't match it, you need to recalibrate to a level that feels comfortable for her. This dance of energy leadership and following creates the dynamic tension that generates attraction. The woman who's genuinely interested will typically be responsive to appropriate energy increases. She'll match your playfulness, mirror your confidence, and engage with your emotional leadership. The woman who consistently fails to match energy increases, despite multiple attempts, is communicating that she's not interested in escalating the interaction. Understanding the difference between performance and authenticity in body language separates advanced readers from beginners. Many people, especially in social settings, perform versions of themselves rather than expressing their authentic feelings. This performance creates body language that feels rehearsed, calculated, or slightly off compared to genuine expression. Performed body language often appears too perfect, too controlled, or strangely timed. Authentic body language has natural imperfections, spontaneous elements, and timing that flows organically with emotion and conversation. The woman who's performing interest might hit all the right signals, but in ways that feel mechanical. The woman who's authentically interested displays signals that feel natural and unforced. This distinction becomes particularly important in environments where people are expected to perform social roles. Professional settings, formal events, and highly social environments often encourage performance over authenticity. Learning to read through the performance to the authentic feelings underneath requires experience and careful observation of subtle inconsistencies. The progression from stranger to intimate connection shows predictable patterns in body language that can guide your interaction strategy. Initial contact involves formal, socially appropriate distance and gestures. As comfort builds, positioning becomes closer and more relaxed. Personal space boundaries soften gradually. Touch becomes more frequent and lingers longer. Eye contact intensifies and becomes more intimate. Understanding this natural progression prevents you from rushing ahead too quickly or moving too slowly. Attempting intimate body language before establishing comfort creates discomfort and retreat. Failing to escalate when she's ready for more intimate connection can cause her interest to fade. Reading her readiness for each stage allows you to move at the appropriate pace. The final stage of this progression involves synchronized breathing, matching posture without conscious effort, comfortable silence, and physical positioning that would seem intimate to outside observers. When these elements align naturally, you've achieved the kind of connection that creates lasting attraction and emotional bond. Cultural and individual differences in body language expression require constant calibration of your interpretation skills. Women from different cultural backgrounds express interest, discomfort, respect, and attraction in varying ways. Some cultures encourage more physical expressiveness. Others value restraint and subtlety. Some cultures use direct eye contact to show respect. Others consider it aggressive or inappropriate. Beyond cultural differences, individual personality types express themselves differently through body language. Introverted women might show interest through sustained attention and subtle signals rather than obvious displays. Extroverted women might be naturally expressive in ways that don't necessarily indicate romantic interest. Anxious individuals might display nervous energy that masks their true feelings. Confident individuals might appear interested when they're simply comfortable in social situations. Developing cultural and individual sensitivity requires observing patterns across different types of women, while remaining open to exceptions and variations. The key is avoiding rigid interpretations while maintaining awareness of general principles that apply across most situations. The integration of verbal and non-verbal communication provides the most complete picture of a woman's true feelings and intentions. Words can lie, but the combination of words, tone, timing, and body language creates a complete communication package that's much harder to fake. Learning to read these elements together rather than separately dramatically improves your accuracy. When verbal and non-verbal signals align, you can trust the communication. When they contradict each other, the non-verbal signals typically reveal the truth. The woman who says she's fine while displaying tense body language isn't fine. The woman who claims to be interested while consistently creating distance isn't interested. The body doesn't lie even when words do. This integration skill becomes particularly valuable in complex social situations where multiple layers of communication operate simultaneously. Professional environments, group social settings, and formal events all create pressures that can cause misalignment between verbal and nonverbal communication. Reading the complete package prevents misunderstanding and allows for more appropriate responses. Responses. The development of body language mastery requires understanding the concept of emotional state transference. When you maintain a calm, confident internal state, that energy radiates through your posture, breathing, and micro-expressions in ways that women unconsciously pick up on. This creates what psychologists call emotional contagion, where your emotional state influences hers without either of you realizing it's happening. Um, Most men completely miss this fundamental principle because they're focused on reading her signals while remaining unconscious of the signals they're broadcasting. Your nervous energy creates nervous energy in her. Your desperation triggers her discomfort. Your authentic confidence generates her relaxation and openness. This isn't mystical nonsense. It's basic neuroscience. Mirror neurons in her brain automatically respond to the emotional patterns you're expressing through your body language. This is why technique-focused approaches to body language often fail spectacularly. You can memorize every signal and study every gesture. But if your underlying emotional state is needy or insecure, that energy contaminates every interaction. Women are incredibly sensitive to incongruence between your conscious behaviors and your unconscious energy. They can sense when you're performing confidence versus actually feeling it. The concept of social proof through body language operates on multiple levels that most men never consider. It's not just about other women finding you attractive. It's about how you carry yourself in social spaces, how you interact with service staff, how you handle unexpected situations, and how comfortable you seem in your own skin, regardless of who's watching. Women are constantly gathering data about your social value through these indirect observations. The man who's rude to waiters while trying to impress his date is communicating something about his character. The man who becomes visibly nervous when attractive women enter the room is revealing his scarcity mindset. The man who maintains his composure and energy regardless of social pressures demonstrates the kind of internal strength that generates genuine attraction. This social proof operates even when you think no one is watching. She's observing how you handle the bartender who makes a mistake, how you respond to the friend who interrupts your conversation, how you navigate crowded spaces, and how you react to minor inconveniences. These moments reveal your authentic character in ways that planned interactions cannot. The timing of body language responses provides crucial information that most men completely ignore. The speed at which she responds to your gestures, the delay between your words and her reactions, and the rhythm of her engagement all communicate different levels of interest and comfort. Immediate positive responses suggest genuine engagement. Delayed or calculated responses often indicate social politeness rather than authentic attraction. Pay attention to these temporal patterns throughout your interaction. Does she respond to your humor immediately with genuine laughter? Or is there a pause while she processes whether she should laugh? When you move closer, does she immediately adjust to maintain connection? Or does she take a moment to decide how to respond? These timing differences reveal whether her reactions are spontaneous and authentic or considered and performed. The sophisticated reader learns to recognize when responses become more immediate and natural versus when they become more delayed and calculated. This progression tells you whether comfort and attraction are building or whether she's becoming more guarded and socially managed in her responses to you. Understanding the concept of approach anxiety in women completely transforms how you interpret certain body language patterns. Most men assume women never experience nervousness or uncertainty in social interactions, but attractive women often feel significant pressure and anxiety, especially when they're interested in someone. This anxiety manifests in body language that can be easily misinterpreted as disinterest. The woman who's attracted to you but nervous about it might display seemingly contradictory signals. She might maintain eye contact but appear tense. She might position herself near you but seem fidgety. She might respond positively to conversation but display self-soothing behaviors like playing with jewelry or adjusting her clothes. These aren't rejection signals. They're approach anxiety signals that indicate interest combined with nervousness. Learning to distinguish between rejection anxiety and approach anxiety prevents you from walking away from women who are actually interested but struggling with their own nervousness. The key difference lies in overall engagement. Despite the nervous behaviors, the anxious but interested woman remains engaged in conversation, maintains some level of eye contact, and doesn't create increasing distance over time. The role of alcohol and social lubricants in body language interpretation requires special attention because these substances can dramatically amplify or suppress natural signals. A woman's body language under the influence might represent an exaggerated version of her sober feelings, or it might be completely disconnected from her actual interest level. Some women become more physically expressive when drinking, displaying touch and proximity that doesn't reflect genuine attraction. Others become more guarded and defensive, suppressing signals of interest that would normally be visible. Still others use alcohol as an excuse to express interest they feel but would normally suppress due to social conditioning. The ethical reader of body language maintains higher standards for interpreting signals when substances are involved. Obvious interest from an intoxicated woman requires more careful verification than the same signals from a sober woman. The goal isn't to take advantage of lowered inhibitions, but to recognize when authentic connection is occurring versus when impaired judgment is creating artificial behaviors. Advanced body language reading involves understanding the concept of testing behaviors that women engage in unconsciously. These aren't manipulative games, but evolutionary programming designed to assess your confidence, social intelligence, and emotional stability. The woman who suddenly becomes less responsive isn't necessarily losing interest. She might be testing how you handle the change in dynamic. Common testing behaviors include temporary withdrawal of attention, introducing topics or situations designed to see how you react, displaying interest in other men to gauge your response, creating minor obstacles or challenges in conversation, and shifting her energy to see if you become needy or maintain your composure. These tests appear in subtle body language changes that most men either miss entirely or interpret as rejection. The man who recognizes testing behavior and responds with continued confidence and composure often sees her interest increase dramatically. The man who reacts to tests with neediness, jealousy, or attempts to win approval typically fails the test and experiences decreased attraction. Understanding this dynamic explains why many interactions seem to go well initially, but then deteriorate when men react poorly to unconscious testing. The concept of emotional labor in social interactions significantly impacts body language interpretation. Women often feel responsible for managing the emotional comfort of everyone around them, leading to performed behaviors that mask their authentic feelings. This emotional labor shows up as forced smiles when they're uncomfortable, enthusiastic responses when they're bored, and continued engagement when they'd prefer to leave. Recognizing when a woman is performing emotional labor versus genuinely enjoying an interaction prevents you from misreading politeness as romantic interest. Her body language will feel more effortful, her responses more calculated, and her energy more managed than spontaneous. The gestures hit the right notes, but lack the natural flow of authentic expression. The sophisticated reader learns to reduce emotional labor demands by demonstrating social awareness that allows her to relax and be more authentic. When you can read her discomfort and adjust appropriately without requiring her to manage your feelings about it, you create space for genuine connection to develop. Spatial dynamics in body language extend far beyond simple proximity. How a woman uses physical space, creates or removes barriers, and responds to environmental changes all provide information about her comfort level and interest. Some women naturally require more personal space and interpret close proximity as invasive. Others are comfortable with closer contact and might interpret maintained distance as disinterest. The key lies in observing how spatial relationships change throughout your interaction. Does she gradually move closer or create more distance? When you adjust your positioning, does she mirror the change, remain neutral, or counter-adjust to maintain her preferred distance? These responses reveal her comfort level and interest more accurately than any single gesture. Environmental factors also influence spatial behavior. Crowded venues force closer proximity that might not reflect actual comfort levels. Quiet, spacious settings allow natural spacing preferences to emerge. Cold temperatures cause people to position themselves closer to heat sources rather than to people they're interested in. Always consider environmental influences when interpreting spatial choices. The progression of touch throughout an interaction follows predictable patterns that can guide your escalation strategy. Initial contact involves accidental or socially appropriate touch, like handshakes or brief shoulder contact. As comfort builds, touch becomes more frequent, lasts longer, and occurs in more personal areas like arms or back. The woman who's interested will typically respond positively to appropriate touch escalation by maintaining or increasing contact, reciprocating with her own touch, or positioning herself to make touch easier. The woman who's uncomfortable will consistently minimize contact, create barriers, or display tension when touch occurs. Understanding these patterns prevents you from moving too quickly and creating discomfort or moving too slowly and missing opportunities. The goal isn't to push boundaries, but to calibrate your approach to her receptiveness level, creating a natural progression that feels comfortable for both parties. Micro-expressions provide the most honest feedback about genuine emotions because they occur before conscious control can suppress them. These brief facial expressions last only fractions of a second but reveal authentic reactions to your words, actions, and presence. Most people miss micro-expressions entirely, but learning to catch them dramatically improves reading accuracy. Common micro-expressions include genuine smiles that flash before being replaced by social smiles, brief eye movements that reveal true focus or distraction, momentary tension changes that indicate emotional shifts, and fleeting expressions of surprise, pleasure, or discomfort that appear before social conditioning takes over. Developing micro-expression awareness requires slowing down your observation process and paying attention to the transitions between major expressions. What appears on her face in the moment before she responds? What expression flashes when she thinks you're not watching? These unguarded moments provide the most accurate feedback about her internal state. The concept of energy leadership versus energy matching plays a crucial role in creating attraction through body language. Consistently matching her energy level creates comfort and rapport, but potentially misses opportunities to elevate the interaction. Consistently leading with higher energy risks overwhelming her or appearing try-hard. Success comes from calibrating your energy leadership to her receptiveness. Effective energy leadership involves gradually elevating the emotional tone while remaining sensitive to her response. If she matches your increased energy, you can continue building momentum. If she doesn't match it despite multiple attempts, you need to recalibrate to a more comfortable level. This dynamic tension between leading and following creates the excitement that generates attraction. The woman who's genuinely interested will typically be responsive to appropriate energy increases. She'll engage with your playfulness, match your confidence, and participate in emotional escalation. The woman who consistently fails to match energy increases is communicating that she's not interested in intensifying the interaction. Understanding the difference between performed and authentic body language separates advanced readers from beginners. Many people, especially in social settings, perform versions of themselves rather than expressing genuine feelings. This performance creates body language that feels rehearsed, calculated, or slightly off compared to natural expression. Performed body language often appears too perfect, too controlled, or strangely timed. Authentic body language has natural imperfections, spontaneous elements, and timing that flows organically with emotion and conversation. The woman performing interest might display all the right signals, but in ways that feel mechanical or disconnected from genuine feeling. This distinction becomes particularly important in environments that encourage social performance, like professional events, formal gatherings, or highly competitive social settings. Learning to read through performance to authentic feelings requires experience and careful observation of subtle inconsistencies between conscious behaviors and unconscious expressions. The integration of all these elements into a comprehensive reading system requires practice and constant calibration. Body language mastery isn't about memorizing isolated signals, but about developing the ability to read complex, multi-layered communication in real time. This skill transforms not just your dating success, but your entire social intelligence. The man who masters these principles gains access to a hidden world of communication that most people never recognize exists. He can navigate social situations with unprecedented accuracy, build connections more effectively, and avoid misunderstandings that plague less aware individuals. This isn't manipulation. It's communication mastery that benefits everyone involved. But remember, with this knowledge comes responsibility. Use these insights to create genuine connection and mutual understanding, not to exploit or manipulate others. The goal is better communication, not social advantage at others' expense. When used ethically, body language mastery enhances human connection in ways that benefit everyone involved. The journey to this level of social awareness requires patience, practice, and honest self-reflection. Start by observing your own body language patterns and how they affect others' responses to you. Then gradually expand your awareness to include the complete communication package that others are presenting. With time and experience, you'll develop the kind of social intelligence that transforms every interaction into an opportunity for genuine human connection. Connection. The development of this social intelligence requires understanding what I call the authenticity paradox. The more you study body language, the more you risk becoming calculating and inauthentic in your own expressions. Women have evolved to detect incongruence between your conscious behaviors and unconscious energy with laser-like precision. They can sense when you're performing versus when you're genuinely being yourself. This creates a fascinating challenge. The knowledge that makes you more effective at reading others can simultaneously make you less authentic in your own expression. You might find yourself consciously adjusting your posture, monitoring your eye contact, or calculating your responses instead of simply being present in the moment. This self-consciousness actually reduces your attractiveness because it creates the very incongruence that women instinctively avoid. The solution lies in understanding that body language mastery isn't about control, but about awareness. Your goal isn't to manipulate your own signals, but to align your external expression with your internal state. When you're genuinely confident, relaxed, and enjoying yourself, your body language naturally communicates these qualities without conscious effort. When you're anxious, needy, or trying too hard, no amount of technique can hide these feelings. This principle explains why some men with minimal social training can be incredibly successful with women, while others with extensive knowledge struggle constantly. The first group operates from authentic internal states that create naturally attractive body language. The second group tries to fake external behaviors while maintaining unattractive internal states, creating the incongruence that women immediately detect and avoid. The concept of emotional state management becomes crucial for applying body language knowledge effectively. Instead of focusing primarily on reading her signals, invest equal energy in managing your own internal state. When you're genuinely comfortable with yourself and enjoying the interaction for its own sake, your body language naturally becomes more attractive and your reading ability improves dramatically. This state management requires developing what psychologists call emotional regulation skills. Can you maintain your center when she tests you? Can you stay relaxed when she seems disinterested? Can you remain confident when other men compete for her attention? These internal challenges determine the quality of your external expression far more than any technical knowledge about gestures or positioning. The role of outcome independence in body language cannot be overstated. When you need something from the interaction, whether it's validation, approval, or romantic success, that neediness leaks through every aspect of your physical expression. Your posture becomes slightly contracted. Your eye contact becomes seeking rather than confident, and your gestures become calculated rather than natural. Women detect this neediness instantly through unconscious pattern recognition. Their evolutionary programming has fine-tuned their ability to distinguish between men who are abundant and secure versus men who are desperate and needy. This detection happens below conscious awareness through subtle cues in your energy, timing, and physical presence that you might not even realize you're broadcasting. True outcome independence creates the kind of relaxed confidence that makes body language reading almost effortless. When you're genuinely unattached to any particular result, you become more present and observant. You notice subtle signals because you're not preoccupied with managing your own anxiety or calculating your next move. This presence allows for authentic connection that benefits both parties. The concept of social calibration extends beyond individual interactions to understanding group dynamics and environmental factors. How does her body language change when friends arrive? How does she position herself relative to other women in the group? How does her energy shift in different social contexts? These broader patterns provide crucial information about her personality, values, and relationship to social pressure. Some women become more guarded and conservative when friends are present, suppressing interest signals to maintain their social image. Others become more animated and expressive, using group energy to amplify their natural personality. Understanding these patterns helps you calibrate your approach to different social situations rather than applying the same reading techniques regardless of context. The influence of female social dynamics on body language creates additional layers of complexity that most men never consider. Women are constantly managing their reputation within their social group, which affects how they express interest or disinterest. The signals she sends privately might be completely different from those she displays when her friends are watching. This social pressure explains why many interactions that seem promising in private fizzle when group dynamics enter the picture. She might be genuinely interested, but unable to express that interest openly due to social expectations or peer pressure. Learning to recognize this conflict between private feelings and public expression prevents you from misinterpreting group behavior as individual rejection. The timing of these social shifts provides valuable information about her confidence level and independence. The woman who maintains consistent behavior regardless of social pressure demonstrates self-assurance and authenticity. The woman whose signals dramatically change based on who's watching reveals dependency on external validation that might affect relationship dynamics long-term. Advanced practitioners develop what I call peripheral awareness, the ability to monitor multiple people's body language simultaneously while maintaining natural interaction with your primary focus. This skill allows you to understand group dynamics, identify social allies or obstacles, and recognize when other people are affecting her behavior in ways that have nothing to do with your interaction. This peripheral awareness also helps you recognize when she's managing multiple social pressures simultaneously. She might be interested in you while also trying to manage a jealous friend, avoid an ex-boyfriend, or maintain her image within the group. Understanding these competing pressures allows you to adjust your approach or timing rather than taking her complex behavior personally. There you have it. The complete blueprint for reading women's body language like a master. You now understand the difference between conscious performance and unconscious truth. You can recognize the subtle signals that most men miss entirely while avoiding the obvious mistakes that destroy attraction before it even begins. but knowledge without application is worthless. Start practicing these principles immediately. Begin with your own body language awareness, then gradually expand to reading the complete communication package that women present. Remember, this isn't about manipulation or taking advantage. It's about developing the social intelligence that creates genuine connection and mutual understanding. The choice is yours. You can continue stumbling through interactions wondering what women really think. Or you can master this hidden language that transforms every social encounter. The men who apply these insights don't just become more successful with women, they become more successful with everyone because they understand human communication at a level most people never achieve. Your journey to social mastery starts now.